Hello, welcome everybody to another edition of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program Teacher Certification course. My name is William. If you're joining us here at the Peaceful Solution headquarters in Abilene, Texas, and wherever you are in internet land, please be seated. Thank you for the welcome tonight. We're going to be picking up in the Respect Unit, Chapter 7, where we left off in the last class. We're talking about respecting the environment. This is the closing chapter of the Respect Unit. Kind of mirrors, in some ways, you know, it's not a complete mirror image of Chapter 7 of the Self-Control Unit. There's a lot of things that aren't in this particular chapter that are in that chapter that we went over. I went over some of those things, kind of rehearsed them a little bit last class about some of the Earth's resources and how we're polluting and contaminating those things. This is taking it to another level, of course, you know, because as you build up in the program, you get new information, you take what you learned along the way, and you add these things together, and it gives you even more knowledge, more understanding and wisdom as to how, you know, mankind's lack of self-control, lack of respect, lack of positive moral character has caused the environment to go down, okay, and caused not only the environment, but everything in the environment, you know, the animals, the soil, the water, the people, the microorganisms, you know, the things we can't even see, etc. So, you know, as we learn, as we go through this program and as we grow in it, we'll start to see more and more. Because, you know, if you think about this for a minute, go out there and look at any character education program, I guarantee they don't have any component regarding the environment. You know, like tying in moral character with the environment, you know, like how man's or our positive moral character or negative character is going to either build up the environment or destroy the environment. I guarantee that component's not there. I told you last class I've read a lot of writings that some of the entities have put out, the agencies out there that have put out regarding climate change, and you know, they all agree, yes, man is the cause, but they keep thinking it's, you know, the depletion of resources, or you know, we're burning too much fossil fuel, they call it, or you know, these forest fires are causing, you know, smoke to get in the atmosphere and it's changing the climate, etc. None of these things add up. You know, none of these things add up. But, you know, as we learn, as we've been learning, you know, what it is that's actually destroying our environment, it starts to make a lot more sense, you know, how the things that were put here to protect us are being destroyed, yes, by man's actions, but not by, you know, having barbecues or, you know, driving your car or flying in an airplane, or, you know, these normal activities, okay? That's not what's causing it, okay? And we're going to continue to hit on that as we go through this chapter. But tonight we're going to get into a little bit something probably might be a little kind of off the beaten path, you might say, in the environment. We're going to be talking a lot about minerals and rocks, okay? Which is probably something you probably won't hear a lot about in a character education program either, right? But everything ties into what we're learning. So let's go over to chapter 7. And I just wanted to rehearse a little bit about what we went over last time. On page 173, we started out about, at the top, it talked about the value of our planet cannot be measured in dollars and cents. In fact, there's no number that can express its worth. We learned about, toward the bottom of that page, we talked about given the right environment, training in moral character, and the determination to make appropriate choices Everyone can have the potential to live life to the best of their ability. And we learn that we're going to learn how to apply knowledge to show respect for the earth, or apply our knowledge. Remember, knowledge is power, but it's powerless if you don't use it. If you don't use it properly, it's just knowledge, and you can find knowledge in dictionaries, encyclopedias. You can find all the knowledge in the universe in this program, but if you don't actually use it and apply it in your life, it's just knowledge, okay? As I believe Chris, David, and Catan have probably already told you in the past, knowledge is information, knowledge is power, but wisdom is putting that information to use and actually applying it in your life. That's what true wisdom is. So, we're also going to, it says at the bottom of the page that you will understand that another important aspect of positive character and a respectful reputation is to have respect for all life. You'll also learn that respecting the environment means not polluting or abusing our precious resources. And that's what we were talking about in the last class. Not polluting the animals, the people, the water, the soil, the air, or anything. Okay? And we talked about more about that word pollution. And I hope you took notes on it, and I hope you rehearse it. Go back and go look at those words. Just look them up online and write them in your book so you can pass them on to your students when you're teaching this program. On page 174 was the last page we covered in the last class, and I kind of went over it a little bit quickly because we were running out of time, but it says, think about it. Even though humans are the dominant and most intelligent species on this planet, we must rely on Earth's resources for our existence. And even if we were to leave this planet, we would have to take those resources with us, the air, the water, food, etc. Now, and I talked about that word dominant, why we're the dominant species, and I showed you the word dominant. One of the words means to govern. We're supposed to be governing, taking care of, making proper decisions. And remember, governing, what we're learning in the peaceful solution is how to govern ourselves. We're learning how to govern, how to lead ourselves. Remember, a leader is a governor is a leader. We're learning how to lead ourselves first, so then we can in turn learn how to lead other people. We can learn even how to lead the animals in the right direction by, not bringing any harm to them, or learning how to govern the soil and the water and the air, how to make right choices that won't bring harm to any of those things. That's what it means by being the dominant species. Because as I told you, there's other animals that would rip me to shreds. I can't fight a bear, with my bare hands. No pun intended. I don't even have bare hands. I have human hands. But, I couldn't fight a bear, and, or it would rip me to shreds, But that's not what it's talking about the dominant species. Dominant just means we're supposed to be the most intelligent species. We're supposed to be the one that's here to guard and keep everything that's on this earth in its proper condition, so it doesn't bring harm to anybody. Okay, now, so it says, if we misuse or contaminate our resources, then not only will we be affected now, but future generations will also suffer from our failure to respect and appreciate our environment. The peaceful solution. And, a lot of people, they don't think about future generations. They only think about the here and now. It's kind of like, well, I know if I dump that barrel of plutonium in the ocean, in another 100 years, that barrel's probably going to start leaking, and it's going to contaminate the water, probably kill some fish, etc. But, I won't be around, so it's not going to bother me any. Yeah, well, the problem is there's probably 7 billion other people that think that way, and they're probably doing the same things. And as they say, what goes around comes around. Water rotates. It circulates around the globe, and so whatever people are dumping in the ocean, it's coming back to you. Or they might be thinking in their mind, well, what they don't know won't hurt them. Well, No, it does hurt us, whether we know it or not. Okay, if we do things like that, it's bringing harm whether we see it or not. Okay, so now we're going to start on page 175, but before I do that, I better go to step 3 on LP7D. Let's go ahead and read that, see what we're going to be covering here. It says, ask students if it's possible to put a monetary value on the earth and its resources. Yes or no? Okay. No, I heard. Stress that no price can be placed on the value of the 6.5, actually 8 billion now. This book is written in 2003, I believe. We're up to 8 billion people who inhabit the earth and the countless species of plants and animals that share the earth with us. Instruct students to turn to page 175 in their handbook and read the section, The Worth of Planet Earth. So remember, you can't calculate the value of these things. I mean, the planet, the worth of our planet, on page 175. The worth of Earth. Worth of Earth. Hey, that rhymes. Worth of planet Earth says, there are many resources that contribute to the great worth of our planet. Resources are natural materials that our Earth provides. So why don't you go ahead and underline that, because, that gives you a great definition of that word resource. Resources are natural materials that our earth provides or that our earth makes. They're in the earth or on the earth, but the earth provides it. It says each resource has benefits used to either sustain or improve the quality of our lives. For example, clean water for drinking and bathing. Grain, vegetables, and animals like cows and fish are only some of the resources needed to sustain our lives. That sustenance, that's something that keeps us going. It keeps us, alive. That's what sustenance is, like food, air, water, etc. The earth also provides trees to build homes and iron ore to produce the steel used in the manufacturing of cars, bridges, and skyscrapers. The earth, I think I was reading not too long ago, the earth is made up of a lot of iron ore, so there's plenty of iron ore down there, for us to use. We're not going to run out of iron ore, okay? The earth is made from it. So we're going to be quite fine with that. We're not going to run out. It's like oil, oil. I know they say, that we're going to run out of oil by 2050, if we don't stop using it now, we're going to run out of oil, But the fact is the earth is making oil, okay? It's replenishing itself. And oil deposits, if they depleted an oil well, they could come back, in a few years and there'd be more oil there, It's not running out, okay? But that's what they're telling you, and they have an agenda with the oil now. They're trying to. I'm quite laughable thinking that everyone's going to run on solar energy, and they're all going to have batteries in their cars. We're going to have electric cars everywhere, and that's somehow sustainable development. Okay, sorry, we have a problem. Even I'm going to show you tonight. Even with the lithium and some of these rare earth minerals. We can't even get a hold of them to make the batteries. There's one country basically that's controlling them, and we're going to see a video about that in a little while. And actually they're found, I think, in China, but also Afghanistan, I think recently found some of these rare earth materials that are needed. But, Afghanistan's not exactly friendly with us, nor is China. So, that's how it goes in the world, unless you have friends or so-called friends, you don't normally get a hold of these kind of things. Now, what we're going to focus on tonight, as I told you, is this next portion. Can I put up the first slide, please? It says, in addition to the things I just read, the water, animals, etc., the earth also provides us with other resources that are valuable because of their rarity and beauty. Diamonds, gold, silver, and rubies mined from the earth are valuable treasures. Gold and silver were once used as money in many countries, but the robber barons stole them all and hid them somewhere, so now we no longer have the gold and silver, and now we're using paper. Oh, wait, that's not in the book. Something I've been researching for a number of years. We used to have a lot of gold, and gold was the standard in America, for the money, but yes, and we had a huge stockpile of gold in Fort Knox is one of the places. I think that's in Kentucky somewhere. But anymore, who knows where this gold went? But we've been off that gold standard since about 1934, I believe. We've been using the paper, and your money is no longer redeemable for gold or silver. You used to be able to take your paper money and go to the bank and say, hey, I want to trade this in for this much, what this is worth in gold or silver. If you did that today, they'd probably look at you like you were crazy and call the paddy wagon to come and get you. Because they don't have any, most people don't even know what I'm talking about right now. So they would just look at you with a blank stare. So it says gold and silver. Here's what it really says. I was ad-libbing there. It says gold and silver were once used as money in many countries, but these precious metals are now more widely used in jewelry, ornaments, and in industry. And so that's what we're going to talk a little bit about tonight. So let's go ahead and look at the next slide. Let's talk about diamonds first. That was the first one in the list that we have here. Talks about diamonds. When I think of diamonds, I think of Africa, the continent of Africa. No, Africa is not a country, it's a continent with many countries within it. Okay? This country right here is Zimbabwe, and these people right here are mining for diamonds. They don't look like they're doing too well financially, but I'm sure the people that they're mining diamonds for are doing quite well. It says Africa is rich in diamonds, but they're still poor. And now this is only one of Africa's many, many resources that have been plundered by foreigners and by people of their own continent. Okay. It says, for months now, Africa's rough diamonds have been increasing in value, but the sale proceeds do not reach the people. In other words, the people aren't benefiting from it, except in one place in Africa I'm going to tell you about here in just a moment. I'm going to tell you about one country in Africa that's doing quite well for its people with diamonds. It said instead they benefit metropolitan elites and the mine companies, which are usually foreign owned. So people are coming in from other countries and they're mining these diamonds, and they're taking those diamonds and they're bringing them back to their various countries, America or Canada or Britain or wherever else they're coming from. Let's go ahead and put that back up, please. That slide back up, please. Okay, let's go to the next slide. I'm going to show you, that is a 1,109 carat diamond. Look at that thing. That's humongous. I don't know how much it's worth, but it says, using diamond money to improve the economy overall. It says, unlike almost all the other countries in Africa, Botswana has dealt carefully with its riches. The government affords itself social programs that its African neighbors regard with envy. Now look what they're providing their people with the diamonds that they're mining. They're using these to help the people in their country. It says these include free school education and free health care. In addition, part of the money from diamond mining is put towards improving the roads, telephones, and internet networks. So here's a small country in Africa that's actually using its resources to help benefit the people. And that's what those resources should be there for, is to help benefit those that live in that country. But like I said, in Africa, they're rich with those diamonds. When you think of diamonds, you think of Africa. I do. That's what I've always thought. of Africa for is diamonds and they have a lot of other resources, as I said, but the people in Africa are not benefiting from these things, okay? It's foreigners and people that are coming in and just raping and plundering their country. And they always have, for centuries this has been going on. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. And let's talk about a little bit about gold. Gold. Now, I know most people think that gold is the most expensive or most costly of all the minerals, of all the rocks in the earth, but it's not true. I think it's number 7 or 8 on the list, actually, of the most expensive. As we're going to see a list later on tonight, I'm going to show you. You're going to learn a little bit about rocks, because, Chris and Kenton and David are going to talk about the air and the water and these other resources, but you're not going to hear anything else about the rocks unless one of them throws it in. So what I want to do is I want to talk about these rocks and minerals, because we don't hear enough about them, and we really don't know what is the worth of these things and what are they used for. So let's talk about gold. I would ask you, if you're a Peaceful Solutions student, you should go and you should look at a video. You should look up videos about the conquistadors, the conquerors that came to America from Spain back in the 1400s, 1500s, that conquered the Aztecs, the Incas, and the South American Indian tribes. Okay, they call them Indian, but they were indigenous people of those areas, the Incas in Peru, etc. They came by orders of the Queen and King of Spain and the popes of the Catholic Church, and they basically plundered, tortured, robbed, and stole all the gold and silver from these people. Okay, and go ahead and put that slide back up. Conquistadors just mean conquerors. And it says that in only the first half century or so of the Spanish conquest of the Americas, over 100 tons of gold were extracted from the continent. Okay? That's just the first 50 years of the Spanish conquest of the Americas. Not talking about the United States of America. Now remember, America stretches from Canada, all the way to the top of Canada, all the way to Argentina, okay, at the bottom by the South Pole. Okay, that's the Americas. You have North America, you have Central America, you have South America, okay? So I'm talking right now about South America and the Central American region where they first landed, okay? In the first 50 years, they extracted over 100 tons of gold from this continent, the Americas, and took it back to Spain. And they split the plunder, with the king and queen and the popes and other people that were involved in the raping and pillaging of the land. In melting down this glittering metal, the conquistadors left behind a trail of death, torture, and destruction. And it was a relatively small number of men. And some of these civilizations had millions of people. The Aztecs and the Incas were huge empires in South America. They were not small, okay? And just a few men came in and basically plundered and conquered these people and took all their resources, okay? And how were they able to do that? Very simple. The indigenous people of the land, the Incas and the Aztecs, and they didn't really have weaponry like the Spanish did, and they didn't have the they call those armor. These guys came from Spain and they wore armored plated suits, and the indigenous people really couldn't do anything. You couldn't thrust a sword through that armor, so they were pretty hapless, in being able to fight them. And so these few hundred men basically took over civilizations and plundered and stole all their resources, killed their kings, raped their people, enslaved the people, took them as slaves to other countries, etc. This is what went on in the Americas, okay? Sad to say, this has been the story of mankind for a long, long time. Rape, robbing, plundering. Why? Because no moral character is being taught, okay? No self-control, no honesty, no respect. Okay, I'm talking about in a format like we have right here, okay? Yes, bits and pieces were being taught to them, but it was a whole lot of misinformation put in with it. You know, in fact, you know, you can look in America's history and just see that if you read some of the writings of our early forefathers in this country, you know, they thought that it was a moral thing, that war was a moral thing, you know, that it was morally justifiable to kill your enemy, you know, if you were told to do so, you know, if they did anything to you that, you know, if they attacked you or they did anything, you know, to double cross you, that you had a right to kill them, you know. Well, do we read of that right to kill in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program? Do we ever have that right? No, it says that a moral person does not bring harm to anybody, okay? So if you're moral, that means you're not using spears or guns or tanks or planes or nuclear weapons to kill your enemies. In fact, you're not even killing enemies. In fact, you're trying not to even make enemies, right? You're actually trying to make friends out of enemies if you can. That's what you're trying to do if you're a moral person. But you're not raping, robbing, plundering in the name of the king or in the name of the popes or in the name of your imam or whoever it is that you're serving. That's not what you're doing. What you're doing is you're looking for ways to help that country build itself and become a better place. That's what you'd be doing if you were a true patriot, you know. Now, let's put that slide back up. Okay, so they left behind a trail of death, torture, and destruction. As I said, go watch some of the online History Channel type videos regarding the conquistadors and Christopher Columbus and the early Americas and how they plundered these people. It was horrible, some of the things that were done. Let's look at the next slide. That's all I did on gold. Huh? I thought I did more on gold. Okay, let's talk about silver. I thought Argentina would actually be the #1 country for silver, you know, and the reason I thought that is because Argentina actually means silver, right? But no, it's number 10 on the list. It's in the top 10, but it's number 10. It says 800 metric tons of silver were produced in Argentina in 2021. Number 9 is the United States. This is silver production. Number 2 is China, and actually in the United States, the top 2 silver producing states are Alaska and Nevada. Okay, Alaska and Nevada. And I didn't know Alaska had that much silver. I knew they had gold, but I didn't know about the silver, so that was a new one on me. Number 2 silver production is China. And that was surprising. China has the number 2. But what's more surprising is the number 1 silver producer is Mexico. I had no clue that Mexico was the number 1 silver producing country in the world. Okay, number 1. So there you have, you know, with that and in a 50 cents, you could probably get yourself a cup of coffee and a donut or something. That information, but it's important information to know so you can kind of get an idea of like who's putting out, you know, the most of these metals, where they're from, what are the nations that you find them in, etc. It's very important to know these things to get a grip on it, to be able to teach your students. Okay. So let's look at the next slide about silver. As I said, the name Argentina derives from Latin argentum, meaning silver. It says the first Spanish conquistadors discovered the Rio de la Plata, river of silver, or River Plate. Indigenous people gave gifts of silver to the survivors of the shipwrecked expeditions, who were led by Juan Diaz de Solis. And, you know, these indigenous people of these lands, they were very friendly toward their conquerors. You know, they gave them gifts, and they trusted them, you know, somehow, you know, when they first met them, you know. They didn't really know what their intentions were. But once they spilled the beans about where all the gold was and, you know, how they were using gold for this and that, and these conquistadors got this information, you know, that's when they just, you know, started plundering them. And these people were very trusting and friendly. They didn't have any clue that, you know, these people would come in and do this to them. But that was the history of that area down there, okay? It was these Spanish conquistadors plundered all the way, you know, all that area down in South America, and just raped them of all their gold and silver and took it to Europe. Let's go to the next slide. This is the silver of the conquistadors. It says by 1600, 25,000 tons of silver had been transported to Spain. 25,000 tons. Now, you know how much a ton is? A ton is 2,000 pounds, okay? So 2,000 times 25,000, okay? Can you imagine that much silver? Probably not. The process of acquiring silver had two phases. First, the conquistadors stole whatever they came across of value, kidnapping and torturing anyone they thought had knowledge of the whereabouts of valuables. See, this is what they did. They would just torture and kidnap and murder just to get these people's gold and silver. Okay, that was the story, the real story of America, how it started. Okay, the Americas. I know they try to make out, you know, Columbus came on a friendly voyage, you know, but he didn't even come to the United States. You know, he never stepped foot on the United States soil here. You know, in fact, I think he landed in the West Indies. Okay, and he thought he was in India, and he called the indigenous people Indians because he thought he was in India. That's where they got the name Indians. You know, they didn't call themselves Indians. You know, they were called Indians by their plunderers. Let's go to the next visual. The next one on our list after silver is rubies. Rubies. So where are the world's rubies found? Rubies, like you see here, that word ruby means red, okay? Rubies are found in Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, and Cambodia and Thailand, okay? So in a couple Asian countries and a Middle Eastern country, Afghanistan, is where you find the world's rubies. Now, there's a couple other places, and I never would have guessed where you find most of the rubies. I have a friend from this place, actually. He's sitting in the audience right now, as a matter of fact. Let's go to the next slide. Believe it or not, Myanmar produces 90% of the world's rubies. 90%. Okay, I would have never guessed that. It says, and I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, and I'm going to get in trouble. Myanmar, is it Myanmar or Myanmar? Myanmar? Myanmar. Okay, Myanmar. Sorry about that. So Myanmar is the world's ruby capital, with more than 90% of the world's rubies coming from that Asian nation. The country is also home to world's largest cut ruby, which weighs 1.184 carats. Myanmar's government is in possession of a sizable uncut ruby weighing 500 carats. Okay, 500 carats is huge. Rubies are among the most important exports from Myanmar. Most of the ruby mining in Myanmar takes place in the nation's mountainous Mogok, is it Mogok or Mogok? Mogok area, which has mines with large ruby deposits. Official exports of rubies from that country are valued at over $87.4 million, while the undocumented exports are possibly more, which means people are taking rubies out of that country without reporting them. It's probably a lot more than what you see there. And it says that Burmese, that's the old name of Myanmar, was Burma. But Burmese rubies are some of the most valuable and rarest rubies in the world. These precious gemstones are only found in a small area of Myanmar, formerly Burma, and their scarcity and beauty make them highly sought after by collectors and jewelers. Burmese rubies have been treasured for centuries, and their unique hue is unlike any other ruby. So that little country, it's not actually a real little country, it's sitting right there between India and China, is Myanmar, formerly known as Burma. And they produce 90% of the world's rubies. It's amazing. Let's go to the next visual. Some other places you can find rubies, there's only a couple. Okay, and one of them is the United States. Okay, and in the United States, rubies are found in low deposits. Ruby deposits are found in low concentrations, meaning there's not a lot, but they've been found in states of North Carolina, Montana, Wyoming, and South Carolina. And other countries where rubies have been discovered include Kenya and Mozambique. These are countries in Africa. And in Europe, the only rubies you'll find is in Macedonia. Okay, so you can't find them all over the place, and but they're very, very sought after, these rubies. Just ask any woman. I'm sure they like. I've never personally, I wouldn't know a real ruby from a fake one, so I don't even think I'd want to go out and try to buy one because I wouldn't even know what I'm getting. In fact, there's a certain show I used to watch. This guy, he's a jeweler in New York, the young guy, and people bring him jewelry, and he shows you how to tell what's real and what's not. They have testing machines and things to show you what's real gold, and the jewelry that people bring them, how much silver is really in it, and how much is some other alloy or whatever, But you can learn a lot from stuff like that. I like to learn things like that because I like to spot how do they spot fake stuff, and how do you tell what's real and what's not. It's a mind-bending process sometimes, to know those things, but it's very, very interesting. Let's go put that slide back up. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, let's talk about platinum. Platinum, that's another metal. And I think platinum, I'm pretty sure it's worth more than gold right now. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. In the past, it has been worth more than gold. But platinum is used for a lot of different things. Like they use it in chemotherapy. They use it for making catalytic converters for cars. They use it, as you see, for alloys in people's teeth, like fillings. But platinum is very expensive. Okay, it's another metal. A silver-like metal, okay? You would think it was silver if you looked at it, but it's not. It's different. Let's go to the next slide. Remember, we're looking at some of the things here's some lithium, okay? It says lithium has become a crucial material in the production of rechargeable batteries. The first was discovered in 1817 in Stockholm, Sweden, and today lithium production and mining is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So lithium, okay, lithium for rechargeable batteries, these batteries that you see, whether they're small batteries for your Walkman type device. I don't know if they make Walkmans anymore, do they? You're probably laughing at me. Oh, your fans. Yeah, your fans you're using in this 105-degree weather right now. Or even for solar batteries, to power solar trailers and things like that. But lithium is important. Lithium comes from the earth, okay? It comes out of the earth. And you can't just find it everywhere. Okay, let's go to the next visual. See what we have. So, here's a list of the most expensive minerals on earth, okay? The 10 most expensive. I'm going to start at number 10. It's rhodium. It's $401 a gram. I think that's what it says. A diamond's number 9, $1,800 per carat. Rubies are number 8, $435 per gram. Number 7 is platinum. Yes, it is more than gold. It says no. It's one below gold. Okay, so 7 is platinum. It's $1,050 an ounce. Number 6 is gold. And this is by the way 2022 pricing. So I'm not sure about today what gold is. It might be a little more. But all of these might be a little more. But in 2022, gold was going for $1,790 an ounce. Number 5, I can't really read that. Does anybody know how to pronounce that? No? Okay, great. I'm not the only one that can't read. Okay, great. It looks like pennies or something. It's 55,000 per carat. Number 4 is blue garnet, $1.5 million per carat. Okay? Can you imagine that? Anybody got that kind of money here? So if your wife asks you for blue garnet, you'll know that's not even within reach, right? What if she asks you for what's that, number 3, serendipity? $1.8 million per carat? What if she wants red diamonds? Hey, they're only $2 million per carat. And the number 1 most expensive mineral on this earth is called jadeite. $3 million per carat. And I put a picture up there for you. Does that look like something worth $3 million? That looks like a piece of jade. In fact, it's called jadeite. But they say it's like the hardest substance, it's hard. You can't break it. I guess that's what makes it worth as much as it is, because the aesthetic value, when you look at it, doesn't look like it's worth anything. I'd probably pick that up and throw it away. I wouldn't know what it was. I would probably think it's a piece of jade, and I'd throw away $3 million per carat of what I had in my hand, right? So be careful if you see green rocks like that, okay? I don't know where they find them, but you might have something that's worth quite a bit of money. So don't just throw it away. Let's see. Do I have another slide? Let's go to the next slide. I'll bet you this is one more. No more? Oh, okay, so I have a video coming up. All right, so let's talk a little bit now about, since we're talking about what's coming out of the earth, right? We've been talking about these rocks. We've been talking about diamonds and gold and silver. And something that they all have in common, have you noticed? It just seems like there's been fighting going on over this stuff. People aren't sharing it. There is trade going on back and forth, and they're using them and they're trading them, but there's been a lot of stealing and a lot of plundering and a lot of murder and mayhem, a lot of negative character being displayed, to get a hold of this stuff, okay? And what's really sad about it is there's so much of it, there's so much of this stuff to go around, but it's like, a certain amount of people or a certain group of people want to hoard it all, they want to have it all to themselves. Because after all, if you get all that gold and silver and you stack it up somewhere in your house, in your garage or somewhere, you're going to live a few years and you're going to die, and you're going to have a bunch of gold you leave in your garage. Wow. That's going to be important, right? To leave that gold in your garage, right? Because you can't take it with you. So what are you going to do with it? Because the only thing you're going to take with you when you leave this life, or the only thing you're going to be remembered for, is your negative or positive character. That is it. Okay? So if you stole the gold and you hoarded it, well, you're going to be remembered like people like, who was it? Some of those conquistadors, what were some of their names? Some of you Spanish guys know some of them names? Trying to remember their names. Cortez, yeah, like Cortez, or I don't know. I don't want to name names and I'll throw somebody under the bus that doesn't belong under the bus. But I used to know all the names of the conquistadors because I used to watch a lot of videos about them. But yeah, Cortez was one of them. But anyway, these guys, they're remembered for what I'm telling you. They're not remembered for anything positive. They're remembered for stealing and murder and torture and. If that's what you want to be remembered for, then by all means, But I don't think you do. That's why you're here. You're not wanting that. So there's just been a history of just a bunch of stealing and things over these resources, And people fight over water. People fight. There's water wars going on right now. People are damming up water and they're trying to hoard it in their country and they're not letting it flow to the next country, it's causing fighting and murder and to take place, and these things shouldn't be, there's plenty to share, but it just seems like that mind without the positive moral character development that the peaceful solution character education offers, it just doesn't understand, it just doesn't comprehend, what it's doing to bring harm to the next person, or it doesn't even seem to care what it's doing to the next person, as long as I have my water, right? So since we're talking about rocks, and let's learn a little bit more about rare earth minerals. I got a video I wanted to show you about rare earth minerals. It's about 4 minutes long. There's about 17 rare earth minerals in the world, and this is going to talk about some of them and what they're for, okay, and what they use them for. And believe it or not, they have some uses that are useful, like we have our telephones, etc. But then they always seem to want to use this stuff to murder and for war. Let's go ahead and roll that video.
As the global demand for smartphones soars, the sources of some of the rare components are becoming exhausted. So how will phones of the future be built? And Supreme Court battle for phone design supremacy. The multi-million-dollar battle between Apple and Samsung. I'm Martin Stanford. This is Insight. Welcome to Insight. Did you know the smooth running of almost every piece of technology you use is down to something called a rare earth metal? What is a rare earth metal? They're a group of 17 lesser-known elements that are fundamental for some of the world's most advanced technologies. But the market for them is monopolized, and that's causing global concern. Insight's Dana Lewis explains.
They're called rare earth metals, and they are found in just about every tech device you use, from your cell phone to the TV you're watching this on. Rare earth are silvery metals found in tiny concentrations embedded in hard rock. Not so rare, actually, but difficult to isolate. Where do they come from? Well, that's where the supply chain raises concerns. Roughly 85% of the world's supply is cornered in China. And they are also strategic, key in building missiles, radar systems, wind turbines. There are 17 rare earth elements with such catchy names as yttrium and praseodymium that power ultra-thin but powerful magnets used in batteries and computers.
The US started winding down its facilities, and China really stepped in there. It saw an opportunity to produce them. It's quite labor intensive, so economically profit margin for producing these materials is very low. And China was available. China said, right, we'll produce them, and the rest of the world said, hey, if China's producing them, we don't need to.
No one really noticed until 2010, when a Chinese fishing trawler rammed a Japanese Coast Guard. Japan seized the trawler. China cut off rare earth exports to Japan for about 40 days, and the world woke up to China's monopoly. The U.S. filed a World Trade Organization complaint against China, which wouldn't sell metals to some competing American industry.
Now, if China would simply let the market work on its own, we'd have no objections. But their policies currently are preventing that from happening. And they go against the very rules that China agreed to follow.
And last year, one of the only American mines which produced rare earth metals declared bankruptcy because it couldn't compete with China's cheap labor market. China thus increased its stranglehold on rare metal production.
That is a concern, that China has this monopoly, and if it were to stop exports, then you couldn't have your wind generators, you couldn't have your Priuses, you can't have your nuclear missile guidance systems.
The worry is, what if China suddenly cut off exports of rare earth metals? What would happen to our electric vehicles or our cell phones? Well, experts say other countries could start producing those metals then because prices would rise and it would become more profitable. But some say that could take years, maybe even a decade. And some manufacturers, such as Honda, are making car batteries now that don't use rare earth metals. And there are reports the Pentagon has ordered stockpiling of rare earth metals just in case China decreases exports, with good strategic reason. America's F-35 fighter jets, the most technically advanced weapon systems in history, each contain about half a ton of rare earth metals. I'm Dana Lewis, reporting for Insight.
So what is that, an F-35, he said? Contains, he said, half a ton? Half a ton of rare earth metals? So you see how they have this war going on with these metals, how they're afraid, if China cuts off, some of these metals to the United States, we're not going to be able to produce weapons. Not just wind turbines or, car batteries or whatever, but weapons to kill. Okay? And, sad to say, it just seems like that's always where the mind goes, with the peaceful, when it doesn't have the peaceful solution guiding it. It always goes to how can we use these metals to destroy our enemy, and how can we hoard these metals to keep our enemy from getting a hold of these weapons that only we want to have so we can be dominating these other countries. This is where the minds always go, But, the earth has plenty of these metals and these minerals within it. Yes, they're extracting a lot, but from what I've read, there's not. I think I saw a whole list of different minerals and metals that the earth is not in any danger of running out of these things. Okay, they're just there. There's plenty of it. But now, the problem is, like we saw there, China controls, I think they said, 85% of the rare earth metals. So they have a monopoly, what they call a monopoly on a lot of those. And, they can use it as a in their trade wars, they have with the United States. They can say, well, if you don't do this, we're going to cut off this, and et cetera. And that's what they normally do, these countries. I'm not singling out China by any means. China's China's a great country. It's and it's very mineral rich. It's got a lot of resources too. Every country on earth has resources. They have they're known for different resources. And if we could all learn to get along, and we could share those resources and not, use them as weapons against one another, and not hoard them and keep the other countries from being able to acquire them, it would be a much better world we live in. But for now, this is what we have. This is why you're training in the peaceful solution. You're training to be able to put a stop to this kind of mentality, because, we don't need to be plundering other people's possessions and taking and stealing and raping and robbing and going to war with nations to acquire their resources, when we have our own resources that we can trade with that country. If we want something, the peaceful solution teaches, what do? It's a 3-letter word. Ask. 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 And what if that other country says no? No is okay, right? No is okay? Isn't that what the peaceful solution teaches? No is okay. No is okay. So if they say no, you might just keep negotiating with them, or, possibly try, renegotiating or whatever. But should you say, well, if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to park some ships off your coast and or possibly create a naval blockade, or a no-fly zone, or whatever I need to do to threaten you, so you start shaking you down until you give me what I want? Is this what we ought to be doing? Is this going to bring the peaceful solution? No, it's not. It's only going to bring more retribution, more retaliation, more hatred, more animosity, but it's not going to bring peace among the nations, okay? So, there's plenty of these resources, these valuable resources that are mined from the earth to go around. Your country might not be oil rich, or your country might not be diamond rich, or ruby rich, or whatever, but other countries are, and you can learn to trade, and you can learn to be fair, and you can learn to make friends, and learn to acquire these things in a peaceful way, rather than in the unfriendly way, in the hateful way. What we're going to do now, I think we're going to go ahead and turn over to page 176. Let's see, 176. We got a few minutes left. I want to set up, I believe Catan will be the next teacher. Somebody set Catan up a little bit here. Let me make sure I'm not supposed to, oh, yes. Let's go over to LP7D because we got to read that last step is only one page, so we got to go to the next step. We'll go ahead and set Catan up for the next class. We're going to look at step 4 on LP7D, and we're going to look at what we're going to learn in the next, we're going to start going into in the next class. There's an activity, it's called Earth's Resources, found on page 176. So it says, divide the students into 6 groups. Assign one resource per group and allow time for students to brainstorm the benefits of the resource they have been assigned. Choose one spokesperson from each group to report the benefits. Now, this is something you can do if you have a classroom setting, you have enough people. You might have to somehow modify this activity depending on how many people you have, but basically what they're doing is they're looking at the resource. There's a list on page 176, there's a list of resources there that he'll get into in the next class: air, fresh water, land, animals and insects, oceans and seas, plants and trees, and sunlight. You're going to assign one resource per group and allow time for students to brainstorm the benefits of that resource. And they're gonna be thinking about the benefits of air, and let's think of a couple benefits of air right now. What do you think a couple benefits of air are right now? Well, I'm able to breathe. I'm able to teach this class because I have air. Noise is coming out of my mouth because there's air, right? You might not like that noise. I hope you do. I'm trying to be a peaceful noise. But air, we need air to breathe, right? You don't think you need air to breathe? Well, go outside the atmosphere here. Get yourself a rocket and blast off and go outside of our atmosphere here, and you'll find out very quickly you need air to breathe. Or go under the water. Just dive under the water for a couple seconds, and you'll find out. Even in your bathtub, just go under the water, in your bathtub, and you'll find I need air, because you're going to have to come up for air. Air is a very important resource because air contains, it says, it contains oxygen, which is needed to sustain life. So we need air to survive. It helps us to hear by carrying sound waves, and air enables birds and planes to fly. I don't know about you, but I love to watch birds fly, okay? Because I sometimes imagine what it would be like to be a bird, man, to be able to, like some of these birds, like those purple martins I watch out here, they'll take off, and man, they're already, half a mile away within just a few seconds, and they're way up high, and they glide, and it just looks like they effortlessly glide through the sky, but they need air to do that, and how much fun would that be, to be able to do something like that, and I like to fly in planes. I grew up in Alaska where, everybody had a plane. A plane was like having a car. I had a little Cessna parked out in front of your yard. Most people live by water where they had little float planes where they could take off on the water, and you could get in that little float plane and you could fly out to a lake somewhere in the middle of nowhere and just land on that lake where no human beings even been, and just sit there and fish from your airplane right there in the middle of the lake. Just get out there on the float and cast that hook in the water, and it's beautiful, man. It's a beautiful place, to be able to. The earth is a beautiful place, but we have to take care of the earth and its resources to be able to enjoy it. I look at this picture on this. If you could show this picture. This picture of this peaceful solution cover for this respect unit we're covering right now, that is a beautiful picture. It's probably one of the most beautiful pictures I've ever seen. It's a very peaceful looking, beautiful picture of the earth and it's beautiful resources right there. And we need to take care of it. We need to respect it, show care and concern for the environment. As I said, the next class is going to be on Sunday, 9/10/2023, 5:30 p.m. Central Time. Catan should be our next teacher unless something occurs. But until then, I thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.